Well, hello. My name is Anthony Sakaro, founder and president of Providence Financial and Insurance Services, located in Woodland Hills, California. I'm also a host of the Providence Financial Retirement Show, which airs every Saturday on AM 870. KRL lays the answer. And I'm an estate planning attorney here in California as well. And periodically, I like to do these videos primarily for my clients. It's a great way for me to communicate with my clients with regards to things that are happening in the world. And so this video is primarily going to be about Roth IRA conversions. So if you have an IRA or retirement account and you've thought about doing a Roth IRA conversion, you're going to want to pay attention. If you don't have an IRA or retirement account and this is something that's not applicable to you, then you could turn this video off and you don't need to watch it. Now, part of the reason why we're talking about this is because I've had some questions from you recently about whether this is a good strategy to do. And so we're going to answer that question in this video. Plus, the market is having some weakness. It's had some weakness over the last couple of weeks, been a little more volatility than normal. As of the recording of this video, which is on Monday, the 20th of July, I believe it's the 20th or maybe the 19th. Actually, I think it's the 19th. But whatever, the market, as we speak, at 8:30 in the morning, California time, is down by 800 points, which is good for about 2.3%. Now, I don't want you to use that as any reason to make a decision about doing anything or make any changes today, because we've seen that before, and the next day or next few days it bounces back and then it reaches new record highs again. So no reason to make any decisions based on what happens in one day, but we don't know where the market's going to go from here. Is it going to stay level for a while? Is it going to continue trending upward, or is it going to start trending downward? We don't know. The new variant of Delta, the new COVID variant, seems to be why the market is going down today. I think over the weekend, LA put mask mandates back into place, and a lot of what's leading the market down were the reopening stocks, the hotels, airlines, stuff like that, because people are now getting worried again that there might be another shutdown. And of course, it makes sense that what went up as a result of the reopening is going to go back down if we have another shutdown. So I think that's what's leading the market down at this point. Now, let's talk about Roth conversions, shall we? First of all, it's a good time to do Roth conversions for reasons that we're going to talk about. And I want to give you some tangible numbers that you can sink your teeth into so you kind of have an idea of what it's going to cost you. Now, I've done full podcasts and radio shows on Roth conversions, so I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts, but I do want to give you a brief overcap. And by the way, if you haven't listened to my podcast, you should do that. The podcast that it airs twice a week, Mondays at 6 o'clock a.m. and Thursdays at 6 o'clock a.m., and the podcast that airs Monday at 6 o'clock is a replay of the radio show that was on Saturday. So a lot of you have told me you want to listen to the radio show. You just haven't been able to because, trying to be at a place at 4:30 p.m. on a Saturday might be challenging. People tend to listen to it just whenever they're driving, happen to be going wherever they're going. But a lot of you have told me you want to listen to it. So Monday at 6 o'clock a.m., the podcast is a replay of that radio show. So you can listen to the radio show on your podcast. And then we do a bonus podcast on Thursdays at 6 o'clock in the morning just for podcast followers. So the name of the podcast is the Providence Financial Retirement Podcast. You can search for the Providence Financial Retirement Show on your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll pop up. And then, or you can go to providencefinancialpodcast.com. That's the podcast website. You can listen to all the podcasts there. There's, I don't know, there's probably 100 of them or somewhere around there, all different topics. Go listen to the podcast because you don't know what you don't know. And we want to make sure that you're not letting anything slip through the cracks. So I've talked about Roth conversions and podcasts in much more detail, but here's a brief overview. When you convert from an IRA or pre-tax retirement account to a Roth IRA, what's going to happen is you're going to pay the taxes on that conversion, but the Roth IRA is going to grow tax-free forever. Tax-free. So now when you get later on in life and you want to start withdrawing from your Roth IRA, you're not going to pay any taxes on that at all. As a matter of fact, not only is it tax-free, but it is tax-exempt. no taxes at all on that Roth conversion. The downside is you have to pay tax on the conversion now. Or is that a downside? That's what we're going to spend some time talking about. But that's the advantage, is that you get to grow that for tax. You get to grow your Roth IRA tax-free forever. And that also means that when you get to the age of 72, if you're not there yet, then you don't have to take a required minimum distribution out of your Roth IRA because you've already paid the taxes. So if you're early 60s now and you're cringing about the day you get to 72 years old and having to do with take your required minimum distributions, this might be a great reason to set up a conversion strategy so that in fact when you get to 72 you don't have any type of RMDs at all, because RMDs are not applicable to Roth IRAs. So the reality, though, is a couple of you have asked me some questions, and this is what I want to talk about, is doing, how do we do this? Do we do it over a period of time, 5 or 6 years, or do we do a conversion in a large chunk lump sum? Now, and you'll know from listening to my podcast that I generally like to spread it out over years. So if you have, let's say, a $500,000 IRA and you convert that to a Roth IRA now, you're going to pay a chunk of taxes. You convert a chunk of money, you're going to pay a chunk of taxes. So what we've often done in a situation like that is recommended that maybe over 5 or 10 years, you do a $100,000 conversion a year. So if you do a $100,000 conversion a year for 5 years and you've converted everything over 5 years, right? Or if you're going to do it over 10 years, you can do a $50,000 conversion per year over 10 years, and then you're going to pay the tax on $50,000. And that's generally what we've been recommending for many years. However, it's changed. And what's changed about that is we're in a very, very low tax environment right now, although it doesn't feel like it. The Trump tax plan put all taxes on sale. And unless Mr. Biden comes around and changes that, which is likely he's going to do, but if he doesn't change it, then this current tax structure goes through to 2025. In 2026, if there are no further changes made by Biden and company, then 2026 and beyond, what's going to wind up happening is we're going to go back to the old rates. The old rates were several percentage points more than we are. So taxes are on sale right now. And a lot of you are converting chunks of money, large chunks. And although normally I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, I prefer spreading it out over time. The reality is, because of who we have in office and because they are most likely aggressively going to raise taxes, that's what they've said, that's what we've heard, I think for the first time in years, it may make sense for you to take a chunk of money and do an entire conversion at one time. So let's talk about that. What does it mean? What would it mean if you were to convert $500,000 tax-wise? And what I did is I ran some numbers just to give you an idea. Now, these numbers I'm going to give you, assuming that you have no income, no deductions, not even your standard deduction, nothing. It just assumes that you have $500,000 of taxable income, because if you have no other income and you have no deductions, then that's what it would be. You'd have $500,000 of taxable income, and that's the numbers that I've ran. Now, you all live in different states. Sure, a lot of you live in California, but I've got clients really all over the country. So you have to keep in mind that you have to add state tax to this. This does not include state tax. And for some of you that are in states other than California, you may have no state tax. In California, of course, your state tax is going to add some more to this. Could be 5 or 10% depending on your other sources of income. So what I'm going to give you are just the federal numbers. I'm not giving you the state numbers at all as well. The other thing to keep in mind is you are going to have other income and you are going to have deductions. That's all got to fit in. So this is not one of those things I want you to do at home. I want you to try by yourself. I don't want you to do that. Before you ever do this, we need to check with your CPA. We need to look at your tax return. We need to know what's what. But I do want to give you an idea. Again, if you had no income, no deductions, and you got $500,000, or you did a conversion of $500,000, what's that look like? Well, if you did a conversion of $500,000, the tax on that's going to be about $120,000. Federal tax, not state, not including anything else. Okay, it's about $120,000. And that would be the amount that you would owe. So really, what's that work out to be? 22, 23%? That's where we are. That's not the end of the world. What if you don't have a $500,000 IRA? What if you only converted $420,000? Why 420? Because that's the top of the next tax bracket below 500. So it reaches the top of that bracket. $420,000 would cost you $95,000 in tax. Okay, $95,000 in tax. What if you only did $330,000? Would cost you $67,000 in tax. So you're somewhere between 20 and 23, maybe even 25%. When you do these conversions. That's not the end of the world to pay all that tax now and then to know that you've got the rest of the money growing tax-free forever. So think about it. If you converted $500,000 and you paid $120,000 in tax, you have $380,000 left. Okay, that $380,000 would be growing tax-free for the rest of your life. Now, if you have the money, if you've got money in a bank somewhere or money in investments somewhere else that you can use to pay the tax, that would be the smarter way to do it. If you're converting $500,000, I would want that $500,000 to go from your IRA to the Roth IRA and to pay the tax elsewhere or from another account. Why? Because then you have the entire $500,000 that's going to grow tax-free, not $380,000, not the $500,000 minus the tax. You've got the entire $500,000 going to grow tax-free, and that's absolutely huge. So there's an idea as far as your taxes are concerned. Now, if Biden and company raise taxes as much as we've heard, then this could be a huge tax savings for you. And that would be the primary reason why you would want to do it. A short-term hit for a long-term benefit. You're going to have to pay taxes on that $500,000 anyway on your entire RMD or your entire IRA anyway. Maybe it makes sense to get it on sale. Couple of other key pointers as we wrap up. Another key pointer, forgive me, I'm looking at my notes, is that you can do in-kind conversions. So what that means is if you have 1,000 shares of a stock, you can take that 1,000 shares of a stock and convert it to a Roth IRA. And what the custodian's going to do is they're going to value that stock at whatever it is on the day you convert. That's what they're going to do. So now you don't even have to sell the stock. You don't have to sell it and rebuy it. You could convert 1,000 shares or whatever shares of stock you have into a Roth IRA, and the value will be the market value for that day. So you can do that. The reason that becomes important is because if the market starts to have some weakness towards the end of the year, then by converting the shares, you're actually converting a lower amount. Think about this. Let's say you have $500,000 of one stock. Okay, $500,000 of one stock, and that stock drops to $400,000, and now you convert it to a Roth IRA. You're going to pay tax on $400,000. Now, if that stock bounces back and goes up to $500,000, guess what? $100,000 tax-free growth because you converted it at the right time. So I'm not saying to do that today. The market's down, as I mentioned, 800 points, 2%. That's not the kind of thing we're talking about. A lot of you are worried about the market going down 10 or 20 or 30%, and with this new Delta variant, that's something that could happen. And we're going to see how the Fed responds, how the government responds. If they start to go back into, money printing press mode, then it probably would offset some of that. So we'll have to see. Here's what I recommend. Okay, and here's what I do not recommend. I do not recommend going out and doing a Roth conversion today. This is something that needs to be strategized for, something that needs to be planned for, and I'd love to help you plan for it. If this is something you want to do, what I'm going to suggest is you get into my calendar and we have a conversation about it. Don't go out and do it, please. Not without thinking about it, not without having a strategy, and certainly not without finding out what the tax implications are for you. You're different than everybody else watching this video. You need to know what the tax implications are for you. Okay. But if you schedule a call with me, we can talk about what you're thinking, what you'd like to do. I'm certainly welcome to I'll certainly throw my recommendations in there as far as that's concerned. But the reality is that by having this call, we can set up a plan. And that's what I would do. Most of you who I've talked with already that are going to do Roth conversions, I've recommended we wait until the end of the year to do it. Let's see what happens at the end of the year. By the way, if we have a plan in place and the market goes down before the end of the year and we can pull the trigger before the end of the year, well, we're only going to know that if we have a plan, right? We're not going to know that if we don't have a plan in place. So I'm going to recommend we get on the phone if this is something you're even thinking about doing, something you're even considering doing. Get on the phone, we'll have a quick 15-minute conversation about it, find out if it's something that you want to pursue. And then if we need more time, and we probably will, then we can talk about what do we need, what do you need to get me for your situation. We can help do an analysis and figure out whether doing a Roth conversion makes sense for you. They have to be done by December 31st, so it doesn't matter. We don't have to go rush out and do it now. Next week, again, this is the 20th of July. This Wednesday, so the 22nd, am I right about that? I keep saying it was the 20th. I feel like that's wrong, though. I don't have a calendar in front of me. But anyways, this Wednesday, sorry, I've got to know. Yeah, July 19th today. So this Wednesday, which I guess is the 21st, this Wednesday, we're going to Cancun for a week. So please don't expect to get in my calendar in the next week. Although I'm sure some of you would like to come and visit in Cancun, I just won't be a time I won't be able to do it. And there's no urgency necessarily to this. Just we have to do it by the end of the year. Get on my calendar. Let's have a quick conversation if this is something you're thinking about, and we'll figure out whether it makes sense for you. So I think I've covered everything that I want to cover. One more point that's very important. And that is that we focus on investing for income. That's what we do. We're a retirement income store. And this is where retirees come to get income from their portfolios. So the reality is, if we can help you get in that 4 or 5% range of yield, dividends and interest of income that you can count on regardless of what your portfolio balance is, you can count on that income. Well, guess what? If you take $500,000, you convert it to a Roth IRA, you pay the taxes from another source, and you start getting income on that $500,000, that's $20,000 to $25,000 a year of income you're going to get. So think about that. What that means is that in 5 or 6 or maybe 7 years on the high side, if you convert $500,000 and you pay $25,000 or you get $20,000 to $25,000 a year of income, then 5 to 7 years later, better said, you'll have gained all your taxes back. And now it's tax-free forever. So if you're 65 years old and you start to do this, by the time you're 70 to 72 years old, with just because you're invested for income and just because of the income you've gotten on that $500,000, you've recouped all your taxes. And now you're in your early 70s with another 20 or 30 years to go, and it's tax-free forever, and there's no RMDs. So I need to add that you have to be invested properly for the strategy to work as well, too. And if you're watching this and you're a client of ours, then you are invested properly, okay? But we'll have some conversation about that, too, so it makes sense. If you're a client of ours, thank you for your business. Thank you for your trust. We don't take it lightly. If you're not a client of ours, you want to learn more about us, go to our website, providencefinancialinc.com. And if you are a client of ours, go to our website too. We revamped it within the last year or two. If you haven't been there for a while, go check it out. Go to our Yelp page. You'll put something nice about us. That always helps. If you say something nice on Yelp, give us 5-star rating. Take a look at some of the other things we've done. But if you're not a client of ours, feel free to call me. You're welcome to set up a call as well too. Hopefully this video has helped. And talk to y'all soon. God bless.